Get your hands where I can see them. My hands are on the steering wheel. What's going on? Don't move. Keep your hands up. Officer, I haven't moved. My hands have been visible this entire time. What did I do wrong? License and registration. Now, I need to reach into my glove box to get my registration. I'm telling you that before I move. Do it slowly. Any sudden moves and this gets worse. I'm an attorney. I know my rights. And I'm gonna need your badge number because this stop is already illegal. Officer Brandon Cole had been with the Philadelphia Police Department for 5 years when he made a traffic stop that would destroy his career and cost the city $7.1 million. He was 29 years old, experienced enough to know that pulling a weapon during a routine traffic stop without justification was a termination level offense, but apparently convinced that black women driving luxury vehicles at night must be dangerous. One Tuesday evening on a quiet residential street in Center City, he stopped a BMW for a supposed broken taillight that wasn't actually broken and immediately drew his weapon on a woman sitting calmly with her hands visible. That woman was Assistant District Attorney Lauren Mitchell, a 8-year-old prosecutor who led the DA's Police Accountability Unit and had personally prosecuted 7 officers for misconduct in the past 3 years. What Cole did next, escalating without cause, refusing to holster his weapon, and threatening force against a prosecutor who knew every legal violation he was committing, would become a masterclass in how racial bias destroys careers when you target the exact person with power to end yours. Before we dive deeper, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these show how racial profiling works even when the victim is literally the person who prosecutes these crimes, and your support helps us keep exposing the truth. Let's continue. A black woman in her late 32nd, Assistant District Attorney Lauren Mitchell, was driving home from her office at 8:30 p.m. after a 12-hour workday, preparing for a police misconduct trial. Her prosecutor's credentials were in her briefcase on the passenger seat. Her case files were in the back seat. No traffic violation, no erratic driving, no justification for a stop, just a prosecutor driving the same route she took every night. But to Officer Brandon Cole, a cop with 5 years on the force and a documented history of aggressive traffic stops targeting black drivers, she looked like someone who needed to be stopped, searched, and controlled. Rittenhouse Square sits in Center City, Philadelphia, one of the city's most affluent neighborhoods. Tree-lined streets, historic brownstones, upscale restaurants, art galleries, and luxury condos. The area is quiet at night, mostly residential, with minimal traffic after 8 p.m. Pine Street runs through the heart of the neighborhood, a 2-lane road with parking on both sides and speed limits strictly enforced. It was 8:32 p.m. on a Tuesday in mid-October. The temperature had dropped to the mid-50 seconds. The street was nearly empty. A few pedestrians walking dogs, a couple leaving a restaurant, otherwise silent. Lauren Mitchell was driving west on Pine Street, 3 blocks from her apartment, going exactly 25 miles per hour in a 25 zone. Assistant District Attorney Lauren Mitchell had been with the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office for 11 years. 11 years prosecuting crimes that ranged from theft to homicide, but for the past 3 years, she'd led a specialized unit that most prosecutors avoided, the Police Accountability Unit. The unit was created after years of pressure from civil rights organizations, demanding that the DA's office actually prosecute officers who broke the law. Mitchell had volunteered to run it. She'd spent 3 years investigating and prosecuting officers who falsified reports, planted evidence, used excessive force, or violated constitutional rights. She'd secured convictions against 7 officers. She'd referred 15 more cases to federal prosecutors. She'd become the prosecutor that bad cops feared most. Mitchell had earned her position through relentless work. She'd graduated summa cum laude from Temple University with a degree in criminal justice, then earned her JD from Penn Law, where she'd been editor-in-chief of the Penn Law Review. She'd clerked for a federal judge in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, learning how constitutional law worked in practice. After her clerkship, she joined the DA's office, starting in municipal court prosecuting misdemeanors, then moving to felonies, then major crimes. She tried 87 jury trials with a conviction rate of 91%. She was known for thorough preparation, devastating cross-examinations, and an ability to explain complex legal concepts to juries in ways they understood. 3 years ago, When the DA announced the creation of the Police Accountability Unit, Mitchell had applied immediately. Most prosecutors didn't want the assignment. Prosecuting police was politically dangerous, professionally isolating, and personally exhausting. Officers you prosecuted had friends throughout the department. Those friends made your job harder. They delayed responses to your case requests. They provided minimal cooperation on your other cases. They spread rumors. But Mitchell didn't care. She believed officers who broke the law should face the same consequences as everyone else. At 38 years old, Lauren Mitchell was exactly where she'd chosen to be. She'd prosecuted officers for planting drugs, for beating suspects in custody, for lying in official reports. She'd stood in front of juries and proven that officers sworn to uphold the law had violated it. She'd sent officers to prison. She'd gotten others fired. She had a reputation, tough, fair, and absolutely unwilling to look the other way when police committed crimes. Some officers respected her commitment to justice. Most resented her existence. That Tuesday evening, Mitchell had worked until 8:15 p.m., preparing for trial. She was prosecuting an officer for excessive force, a case involving a traffic stop where the officer had broken a suspect's jaw during an arrest for a nonviolent misdemeanor. The trial started Thursday. She'd been at her desk since 7:30 a.m., reviewing witness statements, police reports, and medical records. She wore a navy pantsuit, white blouse, and low heels. Professional prosecutor attire. Her credentials were in her briefcase. Her case files, including the excessive force case, were in a banker's box in her back seat. She left the office at 8:20 p.m., driven her usual route through Center City, and was 3 blocks from home when she saw flashing lights behind her. She looked at her speedometer, 25 exactly. She checked her mirrors. No erratic driving. She signaled and pulled to the curb, confused about why she was being stopped. She put the car in park, turned off the engine, and placed both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. She'd prosecuted enough cases to know exactly how traffic stops could escalate. She made herself as non-threatening as possible. Officer Brandon Cole was 29 years old. He'd been with the Philadelphia Police Department for 5 years, assigned to the Central Division that covered Center City and surrounding neighborhoods. His record should have raised alarms years ago. 14 complaints in 5 years. 14. 9 of them involved traffic stops of black drivers. 3 involved use of force complaints. 2 involved allegations of illegal searches. All 14 complaints had been investigated and closed. 7 were marked unfounded, 5 were marked not sustained. 2 resulted in written reprimands for minor policy violations. None resulted in suspension or meaningful discipline. Cole had a pattern that anyone reviewing his file would recognize. He targeted black drivers in affluent neighborhoods, particularly black drivers in expensive cars. A black man in a Mercedes in Rittenhouse Square was stopped for suspicious driving patterns. A black woman in a Range Rover on Walnut Street was stopped for failure to signal, even though dashcam showed she'd signaled properly. A black couple in a Tesla leaving a restaurant was stopped for loud music that witnesses said wasn't audible. Each stop followed the same script: aggressive approach, demands for identification, questions about where they were going and whether the car was theirs, requests to search the vehicle. Each complaint was filed, investigated, and closed. Cole's supervisors noted in evaluations that he was proactive but sometimes overly aggressive, and that he should work on community relations. But those notes never translated to consequences. He remained on patrol, making the same stops, asking the same questions, targeting the same demographics. That Tuesday evening, Cole was on patrol in Center City when he saw a BMW with dark tinted windows driving on Pine Street. He ran the plate, registered to Lauren Mitchell, Philadelphia address. No warrants, no violations. Clean record. But Cole saw an expensive car with dark tints in a wealthy neighborhood at night, and in his mind, that was worth investigating. He activated his lights and pulled her over. Do you think officers should be required to document specific violations before initiating traffic stops? Drop your answer below. Lauren Mitchell watched in her rearview mirror as the officer exited his patrol car and approached with his hand resting on his weapon. Her heart rate increased. She knew this body language. She'd seen it in dozens of excessive force cases. This officer was already treating her as a threat. Cole stopped at her driver's side window, his flashlight aimed directly at her face, his right hand on his holstered weapon. Mitchell kept her hands visible on the steering wheel. License and registration. Good evening, officer. Can you tell me why I was stopped? Mitchell's voice was calm, professional, exactly the tone she used in court. Cole's flashlight swept the interior of her car. License and registration now. I will provide those, but I have the right to know the reason for the stop. Broken taillight. License and registration. Mitchell knew her taillights weren't broken. She'd driven past 3 other cars after leaving the office. Someone would have signaled if a taillight was out, but she also knew arguing at this moment would escalate. My license is in my purse on the passenger seat. My registration is in the glove box. I'm going to reach for them now. Keep your hands where I can see them. My hands are on the steering wheel. I just told you I need to reach for my documents. Cole's hand tightened on his weapon. Do it slowly. Mitchell reached slowly toward her purse with her right hand, her left hand still on the wheel. She pulled out her wallet, extracted her driver's license, and held it up. Then she reached toward the glove box with her right hand. The moment her hand moved toward the glove box, Cole drew his weapon. Get your hands where I can see them. Mitchell's hand froze. She pulled it back immediately, placing both hands on the steering wheel. My hands are on the steering wheel. What's going on? Don't move. Keep your hands up. Officer, I haven't moved. My hands have been visible this entire time. What did I do wrong? Mitchell's prosecutor training kicked in. She was documenting everything, his commands, her compliance, his weapon drawn without justification. Cole kept his gun pointed at her through the window. License and registration. Now, I need to reach into my glove box to get my registration. I'm telling you that before I move. I am complying with your orders, but I need to retrieve the document you requested. Do it slowly. Any sudden moves and this gets worse. Mitchell reached slowly toward the glove box, opened it, and pulled out her registration. She held it up, along with her license. Cole took both documents with his left hand, his weapon still drawn in his right. He examined her license by flashlight. Lauren Mitchell, Philadelphia address. He looked at her face, then back at the license. Step out of the vehicle. Why? I've provided my documents. You can verify my license and registration. There's no reason for me to exit the vehicle. Step out now or I will remove you. This is where racial bias becomes lethal. Officer Cole had stopped a black woman for a taillight that wasn't broken. When she complied with his orders, he drew his weapon. When she questioned his authority, he escalated. He decided she was dangerous based on nothing but her race and her presence in a neighborhood where he didn't think she belonged. And now he had a gun pointed at her for the crime of asking questions. Should officers face automatic termination for drawing weapons during routine traffic stops without articulable threat? Let me know what you think. Officer, I'm an attorney. I know my rights. And I'm going to need your badge number because this stop is already illegal. You have no probable cause, you've drawn your weapon without justification, and you're now ordering me out of my vehicle without reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Cole's expression hardened. Get out of the car now. Mitchell knew she had a choice. She could continue asserting her rights and risk this officer shooting her, or she could comply, survive, and destroy his career later. She chose survival. I'm complying under protest. I am Assistant District Attorney Lauren Mitchell. I work for the Philadelphia DA's office. I am unarmed. I am not resisting. And everything you're doing right now is being documented. She opened her door slowly, keeping her hands visible, and stepped out. Cole kept his weapon trained on her. Turn around, hands on the car. Mitchell turned, placing her hands flat on the roof of her BMW. Cole approached, holstered his weapon, and patted her down. His hands were rough, aggressive, designed to intimidate. Mitchell said nothing. She was mentally recording every detail. The unnecessary pat down, the aggressive touching, the continued escalation. Cole stepped back. What's in the briefcase? Legal documents. I'm a prosecutor. Open it. Do you have a warrant? I don't need a warrant. Open the briefcase or I'll open it myself. You absolutely need a warrant or probable cause. I do not consent to any search. Mitchell's voice was steady, authoritative, the voice of someone who'd prosecuted hundreds of illegal searches. Cole reached into her car and grabbed the briefcase from the passenger seat. He opened it. Inside, legal pads covered in notes, case files, her prosecutor's credentials in a leather holder. He pulled out the credentials, the official seal of the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, her photo, her title, Assistant District Attorney, Police Accountability Unit. Cole's face went white. He stared at the credentials, then at Mitchell, then back at the credentials. She prosecuted police misconduct. She was the prosecutor officers talked about, the one who'd sent cops to prison. A patrol supervisor arrived at that moment. Lieutenant Marcus Green, a 22-year veteran who'd seen enough bad stops to recognize one immediately. He'd been monitoring the radio traffic, heard Cole's aggressive tone, and decided to check on the situation. He pulled up, exited his vehicle, and took in the scene. A black woman standing with her hands on her car, Cole holding a briefcase and prosecutor's credentials, clear signs of an escalated traffic stop. Cole, what's going on here? Lieutenant, I stopped her for a broken taillight. She was uncooperative. Green walked to the back of Mitchell's BMW and examined both taillights. They were perfect. No breaks, no cracks, fully functional. He turned back to Cole. Her taillights are fine. They were out when I stopped her. They're on right now, and there's no evidence they were ever broken. Green looked at Mitchell. Ma'am, are you okay? Mitchell spoke calmly, precisely. Lieutenant, I'm Assistant District Attorney Lauren Mitchell. I lead the Police Accountability Unit. I was driving home from work when Officer Cole stopped me for a non-existent taillight violation. When I asked why I was stopped, he drew his weapon. When I reached for my registration as ordered, he kept his weapon drawn. When I questioned the legality of the stop, he ordered me out of the vehicle, conducted an unauthorized pat-down, and illegally searched my briefcase without consent or probable cause. I have complied with every order while documenting every violation. And I will be filing charges. Green's face went pale. You drew your weapon during a traffic stop? Cole stammered. She was reaching for the glove box after you ordered her to get her registration, which is in the glove box, where registrations are kept. Green turned to Mitchell. Ma'am, I apologize on behalf of the Philadelphia Police Department. This stop was inappropriate. Mitchell's expression didn't soften. Inappropriate is an understatement, Lieutenant. This stop was illegal. The weapon was unjustified. The search was unconstitutional. Officer Cole will be charged with civil rights violations, illegal detention, and unlawful search. I prosecute officers for exactly this conduct. Green turned to Cole. Give me your badge and weapon. Administrative leave effective immediately. Lieutenant, I was just... Your badge and weapon, now. Cole unclipped his badge with shaking hands and surrendered his service weapon. For the first time, understanding broke through. He'd drawn a weapon on the prosecutor who sent cops to prison. Should prosecutors who experience illegal stops be required to recuse themselves from prosecuting the officers involved? Drop your answer. Within 24 hours, the story had exploded through Philadelphia's legal and law enforcement communities. An officer had pulled a gun on the head of the Police Accountability Unit during an illegal traffic stop. The irony was devastating. The officer who targeted her had handed her a perfect case of the exact conduct she prosecuted for a living. The Philadelphia Bar Association issued a statement calling for immediate termination. The Fraternal Order of Police remained silent. The mayor's office announced a full investigation. Officer Brandon Cole's career disintegrated within weeks. The Philadelphia Police Department placed him on unpaid administrative leave. Internal Affairs launched an investigation reviewing not just this stop, but Cole's entire 5-year record. What they found was damning. 14 complaints in 5 years, 9 involving black drivers, 3 involving excessive force, 2 involving illegal searches, written reprimands that should have been suspensions, suspensions that should have been terminations, a clear pattern of racial profiling and constitutional violations ignored for 5 years. Cole released a statement through his attorney. I conducted a traffic stop based on a potential vehicle defect. The situation escalated due to miscommunication. I followed my training. The statement revealed zero understanding of what he'd done and zero acknowledgement that he'd illegally stopped and drawn a weapon on a prosecutor. But Cole's legal problems were just beginning. Lauren Mitchell didn't just file a complaint. She filed criminal charges. As head of the Police Accountability Unit, she had the authority to prosecute officers who violated the law. And Cole had violated multiple laws on video from his own dash cam. The charges were filed 3 weeks after the stop. Official oppression for using his authority to illegally detain someone, unlawful restraint for the forced pat-down without justification, illegal search and seizure for opening her briefcase without consent or warrant, and civil rights violations under state law for targeting her based on race. Mitchell didn't prosecute the case herself. That would be a conflict, but she referred it to a senior prosecutor in her unit who specialized in constitutional violations. The trial lasted 4 days. The dashcam footage showed everything: the stop for a non-existent taillight violation, the weapon drawn when Mitchell reached for her registration, the illegal orders to exit the vehicle, the unauthorized search. Cole's attorney argued he'd acted on reasonable suspicion and officer safety concerns. The prosecutor destroyed that argument. Mitchell had been calm, compliant, and clearly unarmed. She'd announced every movement, she'd kept her hands visible. Cole had escalated based purely on her race and his bias. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Cole was sentenced to 18 months in prison, suspended after 6 months, 3 years of probation, and permanent decertification from law enforcement. His career ended at 29 years old. He would never work as a police officer again. But Mitchell also filed a civil lawsuit. The lawsuit named Officer Brandon Cole, Lieutenant Marcus Green for inadequate supervision, the Philadelphia Police Department, and the City of Philadelphia. The claims were extensive: unlawful traffic stop without probable cause, excessive force through drawing a weapon without justification, illegal detention and false imprisonment, unlawful search and seizure of her briefcase, violation of Fourth Amendment rights, violation of 14th Amendment equal protection rights through racial profiling, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and failure to train and supervise officers with documented patterns of racial profiling. The lawsuit included Cole's complete complaint history: 14 complaints in 5 years, 9 involving black drivers, all dismissed or closed with minimal discipline. The pattern documented, ignored, and allowed to continue until Cole targeted a prosecutor who could fight back. The City of Philadelphia's legal team reviewed the evidence and reached an immediate conclusion: indefensible. A prosecutor specializing in police misconduct had been illegally stopped and had a gun drawn on her. The dash cam captured everything. Cole had been criminally convicted. A jury would award massive damages. The city settled 14 months after the stop for $7.1 million, one of the largest settlements in Philadelphia history for a traffic stop case. Should cities face federal oversight after officers are criminally convicted for civil rights violations during traffic stops? Let me know in the comments. Lauren Mitchell testified before the Philadelphia City Council 18 months after the stop. She'd been invited to speak about police reform and prosecutorial accountability. Her testimony was precise, devastating, and personal. I'm a prosecutor. I've spent 11 years in the district attorney's office. For the past 3 years, I've led the police accountability unit. I prosecute officers who break the law. I've secured convictions against 7 officers. I've referred 15 cases to federal prosecutors. I know police misconduct when I see it because I prosecute it for a living. She paused, looking at each council member. And none of that protected me when Officer Cole saw me driving in Center City. He saw a black woman in an expensive car and decided I was suspicious. He stopped me for a taillight that wasn't broken. He drew his weapon when I reached for my registration exactly as he'd ordered. He illegally searched my briefcase. He violated my Fourth Amendment rights, my 14th Amendment rights, and multiple state laws. Her voice grew harder. Officer Cole had 14 complaints in 5 years. 14. 9 involved black drivers, 3 involved excessive force, 2 involved illegal searches, and every single one was dismissed or closed with minimal discipline. The department knew he was a problem. They documented it, they trained him, and they sent him right back out to continue violating people's rights. She leaned forward. Here's what's important. I'm a prosecutor. I have resources, legal knowledge, and institutional power. I could fight back. I filed criminal charges. I prosecuted him. I sued the city. And I won. But what about everyone else? What about the hundreds of people Officer Cole stopped over 5 years who didn't have law degrees or prosecutorial authority? What about the black drivers he illegally searched who didn't know they could refuse? What about the people he terrorized who couldn't afford attorneys? Her tone became razor sharp. This isn't about one bad stop. This is about a system that documented 14 complaints showing clear racial profiling and did nothing until he targeted someone with power to destroy him. If I hadn't been a prosecutor, if I'd been a teacher or a nurse or an accountant, Officer Cole would still be on patrol right now. That's the problem. The system only responds when the victim has power to force accountability. The chamber was silent. Should all traffic stop dashcam footage be automatically reviewed by independent civilian oversight boards? Drop your answer. This wasn't just about one traffic stop. This was about a system that kept Brandon Cole on patrol through 14 complaints, showing a pattern so clear that anyone reviewing his file honestly would demand immediate removal. 9 complaints involving black drivers, 3 involving excessive force, 2 involving illegal searches. The pattern screamed racial profiling. The documentation demanded action. But the Philadelphia Police Department treated each complaint as isolated, never connecting them, never acknowledging what they collectively proved. Cole's supervisors had written in evaluations that he was overly aggressive and needed to improve community relations. They'd noted his high complaint rate. They recommended additional training, but none of that translated to meaningful consequences. He was never suspended. He was never reassigned. He remained on patrol in Center City where he could continue making illegal stops, drawing weapons, and violating constitutional rights. The system failed at multiple levels. The officers who investigated complaints failed to see the pattern. The sergeants who supervised him failed to recognize he was a liability. The lieutenants who reviewed his evaluations failed to remove him. The training department failed to address the actual problem, which wasn't lack of knowledge, but presence of bias. And the command staff failed to prioritize community safety and constitutional rights over protecting an officer with 14 documented complaints. Brandon Cole is in prison. That's justice. His career is over. That's accountability. The city paid $7.1 million. That's compensation. Philadelphia PD announced new oversight protocols. That's reform. But none of that changes what happened. None of that erases the terror of having a gun pointed at you during a traffic stop for no reason. None of that restores the sense of safety Lauren Mitchell lost when an officer treated her as a threat for being black. The real question is, what changes now? Do departments finally remove officers after 3 complaints showing a pattern instead of waiting for 14? Do traffic stops finally get real-time civilian oversight to catch constitutional violations immediately? Do we finally acknowledge that black people driving nice cars in wealthy neighborhoods aren't suspicious? They're just living their lives? Because if we don't fix the systems that kept Cole on patrol through 14 complaints, if we don't address the training that teaches officers to see black drivers as threats, then we're just waiting for the next officer, the next illegal stop, the next weapon drawn, the next prosecutor or teacher or nurse terrorized for driving while black. Comment if you believe this should be law. Officers who draw weapons during routine traffic stops without articulable threat face automatic termination and criminal prosecution. And if you think these stories matter, if you believe even prosecutors shouldn't have to fear being shot during traffic stops, then hit that subscribe button right now. We're going to keep exposing officers who mistake their racism for safety concerns. We're going to keep demanding departments fire cops after 3 complaints, not 14. We're going to keep fighting for the prosecutors, the drivers, the everyday people who deserve to get home safely without having guns pointed at their faces. This isn't just about one officer or one prosecutor. It's about all of us and whether we're willing to accept a country where driving while black is treated as a capital offense.